not working? Okay, I think it's working. The red light is flashing, so that is a good sign. Okay. If it doesn't work, that's okay. All right, if you guys can turn yourselves around so that you can see me, okay, or see the TV screen at least up here. So we're doing our small batch oatmeal chocolate chip cookies. So this will be your first lab that you will be doing tomorrow. So remember, first thing that we always do when we start a lab after we have our hair up and aprons on is to wash our hands. So I'm just using the dish soap just to make it easier and quicker. But you guys can use your soap that is above your sinks. Okay, next what you need to make sure you do is to get your tea towels and your dishcloths at the front of the room. Okay. Make sure you're all set. And then you guys will be making sure that you fill up your sinks with hot soapy water. So I'm going to leave this running for a moment just to get the hot water started. Okay, first thing that you do for this recipe is you need to preheat your ovens. Okay, your ovens at home might be a little bit different. With ours, all you do is press bake, and then you press the up arrow just once until it says 350, because that's the temperature that you need, and then you leave it, and it automatically comes on. So I will show you how to do that. Those in the camera, I'm sorry you can't see. So you just press bake, up arrow, okay, it says 350 now, and then you just leave it. Okay, there's a little light that will come on that says preheat. As soon as that light turns off, it means your oven is ready. Okay, it means it's hit that 350 degrees already. Okay, so I recommend waiting until that point. Nice thing is that if you preheat your oven first, you don't have to worry about whether or not it is preheating or not, okay, or if it's going to be ready, because usually by the time you've done everything, your oven is set to go. Okay, next what we want to do is we're going to get started with our recipe. So the first thing that you need to do is crack your egg. So I recommend using one of these little small glass bowls, okay, because these are easy to crack eggs into, and rather than doing it into your main mixing bowl. Number one, because you can get out the shells really easily, and number two, if you do get shells in it, you know it's not getting into the rest of your recipe. Has anyone ever bitten into an eggshell before in a recipe? If you haven't, that's good because it does not feel good on your teeth. So get out one of these little bowls. You're going to take your egg. You're not going to crack it on the edge of the bowl. What happens then is the egg shell tends to go into the egg. So I like to crack it on a flat surface. So you just do a little tap like that until it's broken enough. And then you're going to stick your two thumbs in and just gently push in and then pull the shell apart, like so. Okay, if you get shell in your egg, the best way to take the shell out is with using this. Okay, it's like a perfect little scooper and it cuts through the egg white really easily. If you try to use your fingers or anything else, it will be very, very difficult because it is very slippery. So use the egg shell. Okay, toss that out. I'm going to give my hands a little wash because I touched the raw egg. Oh, I still need that on. I'm going to turn another sink on to get this hot water running. We might have to do this when we're doing our labs as well. It takes a while for the hot water to get up here. Okay, so I'm going to take my egg and I'm going to whisk it. Okay, we want to break up that egg yolk and mix that in with the egg white. So you just use a little fork and just mix that all together. Okay, and then we're just going to set this aside. We will need it later. All right, next, my Chromebook logged out, of course. Okay, anytime you touch your Chromebook or your phone or anything like that, you have to wash your hands. Know why? Because your Chromebook is dirty, and so is your phone. You take your phones to the bathroom or things like that, or you take your Chromebook all over the place with you. Okay, always make sure you wash your hands after touching that stuff. Okay, next I need 2 tablespoons of butter or margarine. So Tablespoon measure is the biggest one. We're going to talk today about all the different measuring tools. So these are our measuring spoons. You need the biggest one. It will say 1 TBSP on it. Okay. This one says TBSP as well. That stands for tablespoon, and then some of the other ones might spell out the whole word tablespoon. And you're going to take your tablespoon measure, and you're just going to take your knife, just a butter knife, and you're going to scoop some of this margarine into your measuring spoon. Okay, and push it down in there to make sure that you get out any air bubbles. Okay, notice I have lots of excess. I'm going to take the back side of my butter knife, and I'm just going to scrape it off so that it looks like that, so you have a precise measurement. Okay, I'm just going to check the water. Okay, it is warm now. Perfect. Okay, and then to get it out of there, you just take that same butter knife and just scoop it out of your measuring spoon. Okay, so we need 2, so I'm going to do one more. Get that in there, scrape it off, okay, and then scoop it out. We're using about a medium size, small to medium size mixing bowl. We don't need anything too big because we are doing a very small recipe. Okay. When I'm done with any of my cold ingredients, I tend to put them away, okay, especially the margarine because it tends to get soft. So I'm going to put that back in the fridge. Okay, again, keeping it out of that danger zone. Next, I need a 1/4 cup of light brown sugar. So brown sugar is measured a little bit differently than other dry ingredients. You are going to use your 1/4 cup measure. Okay, we'll talk about measurements today. And you're going to over scoop it, like so. And then this is one where you're actually going to touch it. So you have to make sure your hands are clean before you do this. Okay, you actually press it lightly into your measuring cup, and then you just scrape off the excess. Okay, because of the texture that it is, you do need to press it in a little bit. Okay, so 1/4 cup of that. And then just rinse my hands. See what I mean by you wash your hands lots, rinse your hands lots when you're in the kitchen? Okay, and then you're going to add your egg to that. Now in your recipes, it doesn't say to mix it at this stage, but I tend to like to mix it because these are like the wet ingredients, so I kind of like to mix these ones together at least before we add any of the wet. So I'm just going to take my fork and just mix everything in together. Okay, break up that margarine and just give it a good whip. And what this does is it does incorporate air into the batter so that, see, it looks nice and kind of caramelly. Okay, done with my fork. Okay, next I'm getting to my dry ingredients. So I need 1/3 cup of flour and 1/3 cup of oats. So this is my 1/3 cup measure. Please make sure you get the right measuring cup. If you're not sure, you can't see it, ask me. Okay, I want to make sure you don't mess up. I did have one student in the past use a 1/2 cup instead of 1/3, and their cookies didn't turn out quite the same. So with flour, you're going to take it and you're going to overfill it. Okay, you're going to heap it, and then you're going to take a butter knife on the back side, the flat side. You're going to tap it. Okay, get out any air bubbles, and then you're going to scrape it off so that it is perfect. Okay, so I call that my heap, tap, scrape. Just helps you remember it easily. Okay, so 1/3 cup of flour, and then we need 1/3 cup of oats. We're going to do the same thing. Heap it, tap, and scrape. You might need to scrape a little bit more gently with these. Okay, and then I need my next leavening agent. I'm just going to do this so it doesn't freeze, which is baking soda. So baking soda helps the cookies to rise a little bit. So we need about 1/8 of a teaspoon. So our teaspoons don't actually come in an 1/8 of a teaspoon measure. That's really, really small. So we're just going to take our 1/4 teaspoon measure, and we're going to use about half of this. It'll have to be a bit of an eyeballed measurement. Okay, just make sure there's no lumps in my baking soda. And I'm just going to take it and tap it until I think it's about half. It'll have to be an approximate. Okay, kind of hard to see. But about half of this. Same thing with your cinnamon and your vanilla. Okay, cinnamon, you also need an 1/8 of a teaspoon. If you really like cinnamon, you can put in a whole 1/4 teaspoon, but the recipe just calls for an 1/8. So again, just estimating about half. If I can pull any, like that. And then vanilla. Now with the vanilla, never measure over your bowl, okay? It comes out really quickly, especially when we have such a small measurement, okay, which is only an 1/8. You want to make sure you do it over your counter, not over your bowl, because if you do it over your bowl, you're just going to pour all the excess into your bowl, and your cookies are going to be very vanilla-y. Okay, so just carefully, whoops. Okay, I got a whole 1/4 teaspoon, so I'm just going to pour about half in there. Comes out really quickly, and then I'll just pour out the excess. You don't want too much vanilla because it's a pretty bitter flavoring if you add too much. Okay, and then we just need a pinch of salt. So everyone has a container similar to this in their kitchens, and you're just going to take a pinch and put it in there. The salt is always needed with baking because that is where you get your where it brings out the flavors. If you have anything that's sweet and you want it to be able to be more flavorful, you just add some salt to it and it really pops. Okay, we're going to mix this together. You can either use a spoon, you can use rubber spatula, a wooden spoon, okay, whatever you like. I'm going to try a rubber spatula today, see how that goes. And you're just going to gently incorporate it together. But we don't want to overmix it, okay? We don't want to kill this and pulverize it because the texture of your cookies will change. When it's almost mixed, but you still have some flour left, I don't know if you guys can see that, still a little bit floury. Now I'm going to add my chocolate chips. Okay, so we need 2 tablespoons of chocolate chips. So I'm going to pull out from my bag here whatever we have left. So I'm going to use a different tablespoon measure than my margarine one. So I got 1, and then I think there's about a second one in there. I'm just going to dump it. And then I might just open the other one just to make sure that we have enough. Just get a couple more. Okay. I don't know if you guys do this at home, but you can actually keep your chocolate chips in the freezer. It helps them to last longer, especially if you're not using them often. And it's good to do that, especially in the summer, if your kitchen or your house gets really hot, because chocolate will melt. Okay, so now I'm just going to gently incorporate this until you don't see any more flour in your mixture. Okay, and your chocolate chips are mixed in. Okay, so it should look about like that kind of globby texture, like that. If it's runnier than this, it means you didn't add enough dry ingredients. Maybe you didn't measure those correctly. And if it's more dry than this, you might have added too much dry ingredients. Okay, so if it doesn't look like this, bring me over and I will double check your mixture. Okay, set that aside. I'm going to get my tray ready. So this is a great trick if you don't want to do as many dishes at home. Use some parchment paper, not waxed paper. Okay, waxed paper will melt and start to smoke in the oven. You want to use parchment paper. So all I do is I take a little piece, and then sometimes it doesn't sit properly in the pan. So I learned this trick from Jamie Oliver. You crumple it up into a little ball, okay? And then when you open it back up again, you can manipulate it. And see how my oven just beeped? Okay, that means that it's ready. So now it's preheated to 350. See, I told you it'd be perfect timing. So now you can just take it and push it into your pan, and now it will lay a little bit flatter. Okay? Last step is we're going to dollop our cookies onto our cookie sheet. So I'm just going to use a teaspoon measure. Okay, just to make it not too big. We don't want to do one big cookie because it won't cook properly, and you also don't want to make your cookies too big because then what will happen is the outside will be overdone and the middle might not be cooked quite yet. So we're just going to take just a teaspoon measure, and you're going to take, I would say, like quite a heaped teaspoon, kind of like this, and then you just use your finger and dollop it onto your tray. You don't need to push it down or anything like that. It will spread itself. So it usually makes about 6 cookies or so. So even though this is an individual recipe, it does make quite a few. You want to spread them apart a couple inches too in your pan so that they don't meld together. Okay, so 5 and 6. And if you have any leftover in your bowl, like I have a little bit here, okay, I just take it, scrape it out, and then you can always just add it to ones that look really small. So I'll just add a little bit here and add a little bit here. You never want to waste this stuff. Okay? That is done. Now I'm going to pop my cookies in the oven. So remember, with our ovens, we want to make sure we open our oven doors all the way. If we only open them halfway, we might burn our elbows. So we take this, open the oven door all the way, and pop it in. Okay, you don't need oven mitts to put things in the oven because nothing is hot other than the oven, so you're not touching that. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay, just for those who can see me in the camera, the recipe calls for about 9 to 11 minutes. I'm going to try 8. Always try less, and then you can always add extra time. So I'll try 8 minutes. So you just press timer, and then you use the up arrow till 8, and then you just leave it. Don't press bake time, because bake time means that it will shut off when it's done. Okay, so you only want to press timer. Okay, any questions? We're good? Okay, and then when the cookies are ready, so you'll know because they're lightly golden brown around the outside, and then the top shouldn't be shiny anymore. It should be kind of dry looking. That's kind of how you can tell the cookies are done. Okay, excellent. I'm going to stop the recording now.